All right, guys, so now we've come to the second page of notes. These notes are going to be finding slope from a table and finding slope from 2 points. So if you have a table, you really have more than 2 points. For example, 1, 2, and 3 all have 4 points, with your x value and your y value there. For finding it from a set of points, we just have 2. So it's a pretty similar thing, but we're just going to go through and do that real quick. As a reminder, this is your definition for slope. Slope, m, is your change in y divided by your change in x. Okay, we defined that last time as delta y. Remember, delta means change in over change in x. It's a shorthand way to write it. We also defined it. Where's my pen going? There it is. Okay, it's also rise over run. Rise over run. Okay. Or you could say the letter m. M is also valid. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by finding it from a table. There's a pretty simple way to find it in a table. All you're going to do is find out your change in x and your change in y, and then you're just going to plug it into this formula. So our change in x from -3 to 0 would just be +3. From 0 to 3, +3. From 3 to 6, +3. From here to here, it goes up by 3. From here to here, it goes up by 3. And from there to there, it goes up by 3. Each time, it's just increasing by 3. That's all that's happening. Our change in y, same thing. 11 and 9 is -2. 9 to 7, -2. 7 to 5, -2. This one, it's not increasing by 3. It's going down by 2, but those are our y values. Okay, so each time you go to a different point, the next point, it's going down by 2. So all you have to do is plug it into the formula up here. Change in y over change in x. Our change in y is -2. Our change in x, +3. Our slope is -2/3. What that means is every time we go down 2, this is a negative value, we're going to go right 3. So if we had a graph and we had like a point right here, down to right 3, you'd have like points right there. You line something like that. Okay. Go ahead and erase that because we don't need it. Oops. There we go. Okay. Next one. Same exact thing. Our x values are decreasing by 4. 12 to 8 is -4, excuse me. 8 to 4, -4. 4 to 0, -4. Our y values, 5 to 10, +5. 10 to 15, +5. 15 to 20, +5. The exact same thing as the last one. We put our change in y, which is +5. Let's put it m equals right here. 5 + 5 over -4. The only difference with this one, I'm actually going to put this m equals because it looks like m equals 5. M equals this whole thing. Okay, the only difference of this one is our negative values in the denominator, and we don't want it in the denominator. It's always nice for it to be in the numerator, this negative sign. So we're just going to flip that sign around. Change it, and then you may be thinking, Mr. Doherty, that changes it. You went down on your x and up in your y. It doesn't change it. A positive divided by a negative is just a negative number. Okay. A negative divided by a positive is a negative number as well. But in your calculator, 5 divided by 4 is going to be something like 1.25, I think. So let's do 5 divided by 4. Yeah, 1.25. So if you do 5 divided by -4, you get -1.25. If you do -5 divided by +4, you get -1.25. So those values are equal. Okay? It doesn't matter where the negative sign is. It's just nice to have it in the numerator. I want you guys to pause the video, try the last one by yourself, and then we'll do it together in the video. Okay, now that you've tried this one by yourself, let's go ahead and do it Or let me do it and let me show you how to do it just in case you did not get it correct or in case you missed something on here. So the x values, 2 to 4, just add 2. 4 to 6, add 2. 6 to 8, add 2. The only difference with this one and the other examples is this is a horizontal table instead of a vertical table. There's no other difference. Okay, y from -7 to 0, add 7. 0 to 7, add 7. 7 to 14, add 7. Okay, your change in y, which is +7, divided by our change in x, which is +2. 7/2 is our slope, which means every time we go up 7, we go over 2. Okay, that's all that means, is up 7 over 2. All right, go ahead and flip on the inside. We'll do our next portion of note. All right, now we're doing the last part, which is finding slope from 2 points. You've already figured out how to find slope from a graph, which is when you just count your rise and put your run underneath it, how far up it goes divided by how far over it goes. You've done it from a table where you just find your change in y and divide it by your change in x. This is really the same thing. You guys remember the term for subtraction, difference? You guys learned that a long time ago. Whenever you find the difference, you're finding, you're subtracting. So that's what you're doing. You're finding the difference in y, which is really how much it changes, divided by your difference in x, okay, or how much it changes. So this formula, y, one of the y's minus another y, over one of the x's minus another x, is really just change in y over change in x, or rise over run. The reason why we have these 2's and 1's here is the way you would say that, by the way, is y sub 2, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So if you hear that kind of notation for it, or somebody say it that way, this is what they mean. The reason why we have those there is because we have 2 x's and 2 y's. So if you look down at these 2 points, we would have point 1, which is x1, y1. It's our first x and our first y. And point 2, which is x sub 2, y sub 2. Okay, so we have an x, 2 x's, and 2 y's. It doesn't matter what order you go in. You can make this point 1, you can make this one 2. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Okay? As long as you don't do like y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. Like, as long as you don't flip one around. Okay? But easiest way to do it is the second one minus the first one over the second one minus the first one. So let's try a problem. Let's try example 1. All we're going to do is plug this in the formula. The first thing we can do, though, is label this because that's helpful. So x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So x1 equals 2, y1 equals 1. From right there, this top point, our second point, x2 equals 8, y2 equals 6. So my hand keeps making all these dots over here. All right, so we have all of our values. Now we have to do is just plug these values into this formula. Let's do it. Y sub 2 is 6 minus y sub 1, which is 1, divided by x sub 2, 8, minus x sub 1, 2. Okay, 6 minus 1, 8 minus 2, everything's good. 6 minus 1 is 5. 8 minus 2 is 6. 5 divided by 6 is 5/6. You don't have to change it. Just leave it as a fraction. And that equals your m value. That equals your slope. Your slope for the line that crosses these two, or sorry, yeah, the line that crosses these 2 points is 5/6. Okay, it goes up 5 for every 6 it goes over. That's all that means. The line that goes through those 2 points, the slope for it is that. Okay. By the way, I know this can be confusing. Please ask Mr. Moore, myself, or Ms. Spear for help if you guys need it on this. Slope is one of the more confusing things. Once you get it, it's pretty simple, but getting it is kind of difficult, and I understand that. So if you're confused, that's fine. Another thing, this box over here that I made, oops, you guys don't have to make that box every time. You don't have to list out all those points. But when you're starting out, it's really helpful. Okay, I messed up a lot when I first started this because I didn't do that box. Do those boxes. They're helpful. They're easy. Okay. So we'll do it again. Our x1 value is 5. Y1 is 2. X2, negative 10. Y2, 7. Okay, so let's list those out. X1 equals 5. Y1 equals 2. X1 equals negative 10. Sorry, X2 equals negative 10. And Y2 equals 7. So you're just going to plug those back into your equation at the top of your paper there. Remember, it's y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So you're changing y. Okay, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2, the second x value, minus the first one. Ooh, we have negative numbers. Crazy. How are we going to do it? 7 minus 2 is 5. Negative 10 minus 5, you're going deeper in the negatives. It's negative 15. Negative 15. Now this is not simplified because both of these numbers are divisible by 5. So if we divide 5 by 5, we get 1. 15 divided by 5, excuse me, negative 15 divided by 5 would be negative 3. Like we did in the previous page, flip that negative to the top because that looks way better. And there's your answer, negative 1/3. Every time you go 1 down, because we have negative, you go 3 over. 1 down, 3 over on a graph. Okay. Last one, pause the video, try yourself. We'll do it, or I'll do it for you after you're done trying it yourself, and then we'll be done with slope notes. Okay, now that you've tried it yourself, let's go ahead and label it. Hopefully that was the first thing you did. If you realize you already made a mistake because you labeled it wrong, pause the video, try it again. Otherwise, you can keep following along. X sub 1 is negative 2, y sub 1, 6. X sub 2 is negative 1, y sub 2 is negative 3. Easiest way to mess up on these, by the way, is just messing up all the negatives. It gets kind of confusing with all of them. You just plug it back in your formula. So y2, negative 3, minus y1, positive 6, over x2, negative 1, minus y2, negative 2. I'm going to put this in parentheses because we're subtracting a negative, and I don't want those negative signs to get messed up. Okay. Negative 3 minus 6, negative 9. Do this on a calculator, by the way. Use a calculator for these. Okay. Negative 1 minus negative 2 is the same thing as negative 1 plus 2. So that would be positive 1. And then we just have a division problem here. Negative 9 divided by 1 is negative 9. You can also leave it in this form if you'd like, because that shows your rise and your run. This one only shows really a rise. Okay, so a lot of times slope will be left as improper fractions. In fact, let's go ahead and leave it as that, because I think that's easier to see. Every time you go down 9, you go over 1. Okay. If you have any questions, again, ask me or Mr. Moore or Ms. Spear. Hope you guys had a good time doing slope, and hope you're as excited about it as I am. I will see you guys either tomorrow or whenever you're in class, and have a great one.